David, first, it's a pleasure to finally have a chance to speak with you. I feel like when it comes to emails and events and stuff like that, I feel like you and I have been like this for years. So to finally have you sit down in one spot, because I know you're a very busy person, it is a pleasure, and especially because at the time as we're doing this interview, this is slowly starting to come up. And the reason why you're one of the best people to speak about this is your organization. What organization is it, sir? And can you talk a little bit about it, please?
Yeah, well, I managed the office for the Ontario Black History Society. So that History Society was started in the 80s by Dr. Hill. And the reason they did it and the people that did it were educators, you know, some of them were doctors, lawyers, and so forth. People in the community that felt that Black history wasn't well represented, not only in the school system, but in the system in general, whether it's politics, business, or so forth. So they thought it was a travesty not to be able to have an organization that would collect and disperse information on the contributions of Black people in Canada. Because as you know, we've had a rich history. When the country was mapped, it was mapped by, a Black gentleman as well, that spoke the native language that allowed the explorers to navigate and circumnavigate the country. So we've been here from the beginning, but for some reason we've been left out of or denied access to the part of history that also makes relevant sense to us and to everybody else. Because what we learn in our organization is not that we're looking at Black history in Canada, that we're looking at history, right? So to keep out a part of that, you don't have a complete history if you're only teaching one side. But for whatever reason it may be, if when people learn about the entirety of Canada's history, I think they get a sense of pride. I mean, every room I speak to that talk about history, they want to know about Black history. I would tell them about their history, things that they didn't even know, right? And then they'd say, well, how does that equate to Black history? I said, no, it's all history. But here's how it all intertwines. Here's how we support each other coming through. Here are the sports that we played, from hockey, lacrosse, whatever. We've all contributed. We've just had some people be recognized more than others. So it doesn't tell the complete history. So if you tell the complete history to a child, to kids in grade school, and even high school, they light up because they now know that everybody contributed to Canada's history and they want more. They want to know, so why was that not told? And I said the curriculum could only fit so much, right? So it's not an excuse, but it's also not the way that they tell me, anyways. History should be told, should be told completely. And we all know we had a role in it. So that's what our organization is all about: collecting data, collecting artifacts, doing digs. So within Canada, anywhere you have a dig now, you have to see if it's relevant to history to some extent. So we found a lot of stuff about Blacks in settlements in Ontario and across the country that were discovered from digs, from people building new buildings and digging up the ground. So we collect some of that archives. Those archives are donated to us as well. We analyze and note them, and then we try to make them available for the public with the story behind them. And that starts to fill out the history that we have. And that's what our organization is all about, right? So this kickoff is to celebrate the fact that our organization and the various presidents that we've had, which has been numerous, and then when you read our list of people that have been a part of our organization, it's the who's who in educators, lawyers, doctors, and politicians that have supported what we're doing. And that's not just Black politicians, that's all politicians, whether it be white, Chinese, or whatever. So we've had a mixed bag of people really trying to make the completion of history told from all our perspective, right? And a lot of corporations like TV who have supported us over the years. Royal Bank has supported us at some point as well. Everybody's interested in it, right? So I always tell people, when you think about, um, you know, Canada, they always keep talking about, well, why do we need, uh, DEI? And I said, it's not that we need DEI. It's not even DEI. It should be DIE, meaning diversity and including everybody equals equity. And you can see that play out with all different companies that have a very well diverse, well defined culture. They include everybody in the analysis of what they're trying to do and how do we represent our product to people in a way that's not offensive. And when they do that, they see buy-in to people contributing their intelligence and their perspective. And then they see buy-in and people buying the product because it appeals to their who they are culturally and their nature. So trying to get rid of something like that is what we fight against and say, no, here's what you should look at. Here's how you should look at it. And the numbers play out. I don't have to make numbers up. Any company that's well diverse, like a company like FedEx, in its in its infancy was started that way. And I worked at FedEx, so I've experienced that in spades. There's no better appreciation for diversity than when you work in a company that appreciates you and put rules and culture in place that spells that out. And you see the earnings potential of that, right? And they stand behind that without saying it's a black thing or this thing. They just say, this is our culture, this is how we do this. And so we push for those things. We have a couple of presidents that have done some remarkable things. Natasha Henry has done some good work on the Underground Railroad. Rosemary Sadler has done excellent work on bringing Black History Society to fruition and getting it noticed. Right? She's also done great work in looking at emancipation and what it represents. Now,
And she just wrote a children's book too.
oh yeah, she's written a lot of material. Like I said, when you look down at the who's who for our organization, it's our bedrock. It's what the foundation of what Black history representation should look like. And we cooperate and collaborate, and we get support from a lot of other organizations, right? Um, there's a bunch that are out there that we can name, but I think I've spoken enough. You can let you ask some questions. But that's our pat. Like, so listen, the passion I have for organization is amazing because when I was in university, I went to the organization looking for information, and Pamela Houston's mom was the position I was in at the time. I gave her what I was studying, and she pulled out research and data for me. And I'd get together with her like once a week, and we go through that information. It was like she was tutoring me for the classes that I was taking with information that my professors would say, "Hey, where did you get this information?" Right? And I said, "Oh, I go down to Ontario Black History Society, and this lady helped me research it." And he's saying, "Okay." So that ended up having me be able to present to the class what my findings were, right? So that's why I'm giving back to it because it's done so much for me while I was going to university.
So really, the best way to kick off Black History Month is something that's going to be happening at a very prestigious location. A lot of people invited, and it's one of the classy events you're going to have throughout this month and throughout 2025. What's happening?
So we're going to be doing our kickoff brunch at the Liberty Grand. We've had it there several times. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue. If you've ever had the opportunity to come through, we're theming it this year, looking at the founders, right? Going back into our roots. So Dr. Hill, as you know, was awarded a name on I think it's a Jane and Dundas Library, which is unique because he's always fought for literacy. And as a big reader, his sons were there talking about how much their father, made them read, and now they've become accomplished, singers and authors, right? So that's what we're kind of focusing on as the founders and what they've done because it's really gone full circle. So in pushing this organization in that direction, it's allowed us to do these holidays, which are great. But now it's also allowed the schools to start looking at curriculum changes. And that curriculum change has now been federally looked at, and we're going to have 8, 9, and I think 10 now have Black history embedded into the curriculum, starting from the 1800s and so forth. So that's a full circle for us, starting and pushing that narrative. We also had a campaign a few years ago called the Blackout Campaign. And what that was about is we looked at, with an advertising agency, the curriculum history books. And what we did in looking at that, we pointed out pages and information that contained Black history that was relevant. We only had 13 pages that contained to Black history out of probably 250 pages. And we thought that was inappropriate. So we pushed this campaign And that became a part of this move to have Black history recognized more within the curriculum. So we can come back to that thing of, you know, our history is history. It's not Black history. It's not this history. It's not that history. It's just history. But this is how you include it so everyone can learn and appreciate what we've all contributed to this great country, right? So the kickoff brunch is going to have some entertainment. We'll recognize, um, you know, teachers. We'll recognize people that have done a lot for education. We'll recognize the founders and their offsprings, of course. And it's just always a good time to meet up with people from the federal, provincial, and municipal government. You know, we have a lot of police officers and army people also participate. We're sponsored by the TV Bank, and they've done a great job in sponsoring us because they believe in the diversity that we're trying to accomplish. And we have other small sponsors along the way. We're gonna put in a word or two about sick kids and what they're trying to do with sickle cell. We're talking to the other companies that have large employment bases because we want them to also understand the education that we're trying to push, right? And then we want to honor some teachers. You know, we want teachers are going to attend because we think teachers are probably the doorstep to making these things better, right? And we need to appreciate them for what they're constrained by, which is the curriculum, and now they're giving them opportunity to spread their wings. And I'll tell you, so many of them have reached out. You know, principal organizations have reached out with principals to say, hey, what can we do and what can we get from you to get a kickstart on this? The amount of teachers that have reached out, the amount of boards that have reached out to say, hey, what should we look at? You know, what perspective do you have on this? They're doing their due diligence. They're teachers, right? So they like to study ahead of time before the test. So that's what they've been doing. And so we're busy also trying to figure out how to package our information so it works for them the way they need it to work for them, right? So I think it's going to be a big year if this thing comes together properly. And you know, Black History Month is coming. We have some things that we're doing as well. We're going to be doing a feature with Batashu. We're going to have four speakers, and the theme of that is, you know, footsteps in Black history. So they're going to talk about how they move through their history, and we're going to obviously work shoes into that, right? That's why we're calling it footsteps. But it's a great collaboration. I think it's going to be an interesting talk. So we'll have four different perspectives that people can talk about, and one of them will be Linda, which is a board member, and she was the first Black supermodel in Canada. You know, so her experience would be pretty cool to hear about, you know, how she went through history. So we're trying to take a more proactive initiative to do things that people can use or attend to get a foothold on why Black History Month is really relevant, not just to Black people, but to everybody.
So how do we get tickets for this event because it sells out quickly? What do we do so we can be there?
Well, you can call our office uh, as well as you can go on Eventbrite. So Eventbrite's up there. If you look up the 37th Black History Month kickoff brunch, you can buy tickets from there. That's recommended because it's easier to administer all that stuff. And yeah, so we're on Eventbrite. You can call us as well. And Pam was our person that navigates a lot of that. So yeah, we look forward to people, you know, coming out and trying. The tickets do sell out quick. We're probably about three-quarters of the way there, and it's usually the last week is the quick week.
Yes. Well, I am going to be there. I just found out I'm going to be sitting over at Spider Jones's table, so I'm looking forward to that because Spider's a good friend of mine. I haven't seen him in such a long time. I'm looking forward to that. I've got to say, this sounds like it's going to be an amazing event. Everybody is looking forward to this. I want to say thank you so much for the interview for this. And we got to talk some more later on because lots of events are going on. But if anything, thank you so much for keeping this history alive. Thank you so much for the interview.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.